Welcome to Spirit Grooves. My name is Michael Erlewine, and I will be your host today for this program about the outer planets Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and just how they reflect on life initiation and rites of passage. At the end, I will show you where you can get some free books on this subject. Although this section is not primarily material on outer planet interpretation, it would be a shame to leave you without at least a quick tour of that realm. So here are some keyword-style interpretations for each of the outer planets, and just a little bit of their shamanic story. Starting with Uranus, I love the phrase, "to see eternity in a grain of sand." To me, that represents Uranus, because Uranus represents our keyhole beyond day-to-day reality into the future. And it has to do, at least modern astrology tells us, with discovery, invention, and insights. To see eternity in a grain of sand, that's Uranus. Finding new uses for everyday objects. It's come to stand for anything out of the ordinary, the unusual, eccentric, unconventional, novel, and innovative. It also brings independence, rebellion, and revolution. It's certainly the opposite, reverse, and the undoing of Saturn. And Uranus has a journey. Uranus is the first planet beyond the Saturn cycle, and it brings the first glimpse of the breaking up of this Saturnine grip on us. So there are flashes of insight, flashes of recognition, brief glimpses of the more general awareness that is yet to come. Through Uranus, each bit and part of Saturn's physicality becomes a lens through which we can peek and see a glimpse of eternity, this eternal process of awakening that awaits each of us beyond time or Saturn. Uranus is ever the planet of inventors and inventions, of lightning-fast insights, of discovery, and new ways of seeing things. When Saturn releases its hold on us, when it starts to let go at about 30, when it starts to break up, and when we begin to glimpse or see through the chinks in time's armor to what is beyond time, that's the function and sign of the planet Uranus. It's the lightning insight, the heat lightning flash, where physical time itself becomes the lens into something beyond time. To see eternity in a grain of sand, as the poet William Blake puts it, that's the work of the planet Uranus. Every grain of Saturn, every physical part and form, in and out of time, becomes a window for us into eternity. At first, there are just lightning flashes that light up our awareness for brief moments, glimpses into another world, the world of the timeless, beyond time. But these flashes, as time progresses, as time fails to hold our gaze, they become longer, and they light up more and more of our inner sky, until at long last the great sun begins to dawn, and we have constant light. It just dawns on us. We get the idea. Our spiritual life begins. This constant light is the province of Neptune, and we'll talk about that next. The Neptune journey, and the key phrase for me with Neptune is the quote, "The dewdrop slips into the shining sea," end quote. Neptune traditionally represents compassion, acceptance, unity, and universal love. The phrase, "the dewdrop slips into the shining sea," is what this planet is all about. Anything to do with communion and non-separateness. Neptune rules the imagination, dreams, mysticism, and inspiration, including music, movies, film, and anything related to our ideas and images. If the Uranian experience involves flashes of insight, then the experience of Neptune dawns slowly and evenly. Neptune is more like the finale at a fireworks. It lights up our entire sky. Through Uranus, we break through Saturn and we begin to discover our inner life. But with Neptune comes the dawn, and it is like the sun just coming up. With Neptune, we can at last get our arms around the whole idea, in this case, our whole world. Our process of self-discovery has gone beyond counting mere glimpses and insights and turned into a cacophony of light. We finally get the whole picture, the whole idea, that beyond life as we knew it, we find that same life alive and well, but now within us. It becomes our inner life. Again, as Sir Edwin Arnold so aptly put it, the dewdrop slips into the shining sea. Neptune is the archetype of the big picture, the grand trine illumination of the planets. With Neptune, we reach the point where we not only realize that we are now outside of time or Saturn, but that we have and have always had an inner life, and that the same hard-edged life we grew up in, and that the same hard-edged life that we grew up in and through is now something to be cherished and cared for. Neptune embraces life with no exceptions. It's pure compassion, and everything is valued equally. In the Buddhist hierarchy, Neptune represents the Bodhisattva, the one who vows to care for and cherish all sentient beings until every last one reaches enlightenment. The idea here is that what we discover in the planets beyond Saturn is not something out there beyond Saturn that we should get, but the true fact is that there is nothing else out there. This is what we can call the turning point. And as we turn, we discover the life that we left, the life that we grew up in and through, to be the only game in town. As the philosopher Parmenides so eloquently put it, being alone is. In other words, there are not two kinds of being, there's only one. And Neptune is our finally discovering that one. It's the oneness. Uranus provides insights and flashes into this fact, but Neptune illuminates our inner sky with full daylight as that this is the truth, which leaves us with Pluto. The Pluto phrase is, "Touch me if you are!" In the tradition of astrology, Pluto points to deep inner change and transformation, always touching the raw nerve, just where we are most sensitive and vulnerable. If we can't stand to look change in the eye, Pluto brings it to us by force, if necessary. For many, this has to do with our thoughts of death, of dying, and what rebirth is all about. And with me, the Pluto keywords are identification is circulation. So let's talk about the Pluto journey. Thus far, each planet beyond Saturn brings home the point to us that looking outside or down linear time will never work. Uranus and Neptune point out that we must look within to find what we're looking for. Therefore, speculation about finding more and more planets beyond Pluto, whether they be large or small, should be tempered with the fact that we cannot hope to get any different message from them, even when they are found. They will all tell the same story to us, and that story is to look no farther out there. Turn around and begin to look within. Embrace what you already have. It's precious. That's the key. Of course, philosophers and poets have been telling us this for centuries. Regardless of how many more bodies will be found out there at the edge of the solar system, their meaning will all be the same, to look within. Pluto represents that message more clearly than the insights of Uranus or the embracement of Neptune. If Uranus is breaking out and Neptune is turning back and embracing all that is, then Pluto is the knowledge that this whole process is going to repeat itself endlessly. It's one thing to discover our inner or spiritual life, Uranus, another to embrace it fully, Neptune, but it's yet a very different thing again to grasp that we will all do this again, and that we don't only go around once, as the beer commercial would have it, but we go around again and again. Pluto is the planet of rebirth, and that experience not as an abstract idea on the pages of a program, but as the vital realization of the nature of life. Pluto is the experience that all life, all people, and all sentient beings are us, and that when we look into a young person's eyes, we're seeing ourselves not as an abstract thought, but seeing ourselves in and through the eyes of a child. That's Pluto, daring to see the them out there in the world. That's you. The light in the child's eye is you looking at yourself. Pluto has only recently been discovered, relatively speaking, and its message is still being sorted out. I associate Pluto with the rise of modern psychology and everything that this entails. This planet is still somewhat hard to put into words. Uranus is pretty clear by now as to its meaning in astrology. When our Saturn construct, our physical body, begins to self-destruct and to fall apart, and it does for each one of us, Uranus has to do with the holes or chinks in time's armor through which we can peer and begin to get a glimpse of a larger reality, something beyond time. Call it eternity. Neptune has to do with the state when the peepholes in Saturn's grip are larger than what remains of our linear sense of time. When there's more light than shadow, that's when the dawn comes, and that has to be with Neptune. And Neptune is the cherishing or embracing of all that is. In Neptune, we are outside and able to embrace our own inner life and to savor each moment in fact. Yet up to that point, we are still dealing with subject and object, self and other, whatever you want to call it. Pluto carries us beyond the experience of cherishing, the experience of Neptune, where we are the subject and the world and other people are the object of our care. With Pluto, the distinction between subject and object is lost forever, and the experience of our own inner light is identical with the light looking out at us from the eyes of a child or anyone. Perhaps the best keyword for Pluto is identification. To identify fully yourself with another, without the dualism of subject and object. All of these words here are very abstract, and they fail to communicate the very direct experience that Pluto provides us. The in-your-face presence of complete identification of, I am you, and you are me. As you can see, words fail, which is as it should be. Let's just say, by way of Pluto, that identification is circulation, the lifeblood of the cosmos knowing itself through us, through our eyes. Identification is nothing more than the circulation of cosmic knowledge, and the Pluto experience is as close as we come to realizing this fact. It is through constant identification that the universe we live in communicates with itself and continues to cohere or exist. So anyway, there you have a brief introduction to the outer planets from more of a shamanic point of view. I hope you have enjoyed this segment of Spirit Grooves. If you'd like to read further on awareness, please see my free ebooks on astrologyland.com. Look for the book link in the middle of the page. My name is Michael Erlewine, and I curate what is probably the largest library of astrology in the world, the Heart Center Library. That was a brief look at the outer planets and their initiation. Now let's look at what's called the circle of repetition. The idea to consider here is this. Before a planet repeats itself, returns, and completes an entire orbit in our lifetime, we don't know its limits, at least through our personal experience, because it has not completed a cycle during our lifetime. The information that we've received from or through the planet as it counts through the zodiac degree by degree is still new to us. It absorbs our attention, and there's seemingly no end to it. It might as well, from our point of view, be a straight line as far as we know. It's somehow altogether new, at least as far as that planet is concerned. However, when the planet has completed one circle of the zodiac, the information or tone changes for us. We now have the whole of that planet's message or cycle within our experience. Its ability to entrance us begins to fall away, or at least now is included within and as part of our own personal experience. And we begin then to pick up on information about the next outer planet, the planet beyond it that's slowly making its first cycle. I was first exposed to this idea in a book by Grant Alui called Astrology for the Millions. And although I'm quite well read in the literature of astrology, this book is still perhaps the single most important work on astrology that I've ever come across that relates to time. It is, in my opinion, the definitive work on transits. Everything published since amounts to a footnote to Louis' book. For example, the planet Jupiter makes its first return at about 12 years of age, and this signals adolescence. At that age, we begin to monitor and pick up on the beat and measure of the great keeper of time, the planet Saturn. And it seems that almost all of us get caught up in time at that point in our life. Before our first Saturn return, we are held within the sphere or cycle of Saturn, like a child forming within the womb. These are our formative years, years during which we're growing up and completing our physical form, which is Saturn. Saturn is the physical form. As Saturn completes a great cycle or circle and begins to repeat itself, begins to fade to repetition, its hold on us somehow lapses, and we start to see beyond time, beyond Saturn, and to catch glimpses of a timeless state, what we could call eternity. It dawns, for most of us, very slowly. We find ourselves standing outside of time as we've known it. The transition from within time, within the 30-year orbit of Saturn, to without time, this passage that I'm talking about, and the rites of this passage, that's our theme here. We're going to look at the more esoteric idea of time. My esoteric teacher would always spell words for me. The word time, he said, spells tie-me. And if you turn it around and read it backward, which is what he always did, it says emit. There you have the whole concept in a word. Within the cycle of Saturn, we submit to the force of time, and we form or tie ourselves up and grow our body. We incarnate. After the Saturn return, after we're over the age of 30, we begin to untie. We begin to emit. We start to break up or come apart, literally to shine. This same teacher made it clear that we are launched like a space vehicle at our Saturn return at 30 years of age. At that point, our formative years are over. The time to perfect the launch vehicle, the physical form, is before the launch, before the age of 30 years. that is, while we're still on the ground of Saturn, so to speak. Once launched, we find out just how well made or tightly wrapped we are, how long we will last. We then begin to move beyond the protective sphere of time, of Saturn, and we submit ourselves to the test of time, Saturn or Satan, the old word. How long can we endure? That's the question. At the Saturn return, our physical body, which is now fully formed at 30, heads out beyond the womb-like Saturn cycle. Ready or not, here we come. We are launched beyond time's, which is Saturn's first protective grip, and begin to stand the test of time, to see just what we are made of, just how and how long we will last sailing out there. Time releases, or lets us go, and off we float, freed for the first time from all sense of gravity and the grave. However, the awareness of this event that takes place at 30 years of age or around there may take years for us to develop. At this point, at our Saturn return, we are cut loose. Like some great ship, we begin to float off into space. It is as if some vast generator has been switched off. Our consciousness moves beyond time and Saturn into a new state of mind. We begin to enter what has been called the silence. This great event is given almost little or no fanfare in our modern consciousness and society. We have lots of asides and jokes about growing older, but few direct references to this great transformation, this rite of passage. Most of us take these changes in a very private and solitary way.